Hello, good day, and welcome. Welcome to the University of Self. The University of Self is not a university that has walls or containment of any kind. It is not an institution as such. Study begins at the University of Self with the experiencing mind asking itself the most important question that it can ask itself, which is, what do I want? What do I really, really want? Followed by the related question, what is the most important thing to me in this life of my experiencing? At the University of Self, the most important thing to a student is an overriding curiosity to get to know the self. So at the University of Self, self-study is the most important emphasis. Now, I want to take a moment to reflect upon why emphasize that emphasis, what one emphasizes, why this is so important, why this is a vital first precept for the mind to understand. And I want to explore this sense of emphasis and the importance of how this can give rise to different meanings in life. In other words, what one emphasizes determines the meaning of life that's experienced. By using the expression, John and I didn't steal your bicycle yesterday. If we start with the emphasis on John and say, John and I didn't steal your bicycle yesterday, the meaning of the phrase where John is emphasized in that way is very different from where the word and is emphasized, so that it becomes John and I didn't steal your bicycle yesterday. And we can logically move this on to John and I didn't steal your bicycle yesterday, and the implication of the different meaning from the first two, and continue down the line until we have John and I didn't steal your bicycle yesterday, with the implication that we may not have stolen it, but we may have done something else in relation to it. And of course, the former, which is John and I didn't steal your bicycle yesterday, which is in a sense a plain emphasis on the word that demonstrates the meaning of the sentence, which is a complete denial of the act. Then of course there's John and I didn't steal your bicycle yesterday, and then John and I didn't steal your bicycle yesterday, suggesting that we may have stolen something else. And John and I didn't steal your bicycle yesterday. And by underlining, seeing that yesterday was in a sense, the only day, perhaps, and that the stealing occurred on another day, other than yesterday. The relevance of this demonstration being, therefore, that emphasis determines the meaning of the sentence. In a sense, it provides the context with which the sentence is understood by underlining something that, in a sense, is bringing it to the attention more in order to negate it and leave open other possibilities of interpretation of the sentence. But in a sense, the conclusion being formed necessarily by the strategic use of the emphasis, as if in some way rather to avoid giving the emphasis on actually didn't do it. In other words, the very sentence, the emphasis of any other words than the word didn't, leads to a suspicion of mind as to the reason for the omission of the most important word from the sentence in terms of denial. Now, with the University of Self, what we emphasize as seekers of the truth of ourselves, for that is the object of our study, what we do plainly and clearly and determinedly emphasize is a curiosity to get to know and learn about the self. Curiosity, the readiness to use our capacity to learn, and also the capacity to self-reflect and learn about the self as the most important subject of study. So entrance to the University of Self begins when the student is open-minded and curious above all things to learn about the self of its own experiencing, the student's own experiencing. This then becomes the truth, the only truth the student can ever experience, and therefore the only truth that can be relative to that student, or relevant to that student, above all underlined things. This becomes the single most important emphasis by which all other things in some way are relegated to secondary importance, no matter what. Thus, every situation becomes an opportunity to learn about the self, no matter how vivid sometimes and dramatic the drama sometimes can be. A readiness to step back and observe the self and its reactions in order to discover knowledge of itself and its reactions and its nature, type and dynamic. And in order to remain in the University of Self, therefore, it is essential, it is a sine qua non of remaining in the University of Self, that the self continues to set its direction, set its pointer, its compass on self-knowledge, getting to know the self. Knowing the self is the meaning and purpose of a student at the University of Self, to the exclusion of everything else. Self-knowing is more important than anything else to a student who wishes to remain in the University of Self. In essence, the meaning and purpose of a student studying or wishing to study at the University of Self is to know thyself. And this knowing of the self can only come about because there is a capacity of this experiencing mind to see and know itself. And there has to be an acknowledgement of the student that the student doesn't know everything about him or herself, bringing about the second element of a desire to know above all things. And that's all, capital A, underlined things. In time, the student at the University of Self will understand the importance of this in regard to the importance of meaning and purpose to the experiencing mind, such that they will understand that without a sense of meaning and purpose, the experiencing mind flounders to a high degree, as if it's drowning or dying. So meaning and purpose, wherever the experiencing mind is essential to its sense of vitality and life. One might say that meaning and purpose is the lifeblood of the experiencing mind. Without a clear sense of meaning and purpose, an experiencing mind has no direction. And without a clear sense of direction, an experiencing mind feels lost. Therefore, one of the advantages of being a student at the University of Self is that the student never feels lost in regard to meaning and purpose, because it defines life to be its classroom. And as all things change, one of the cornerstones of truths about the world of experiences is that everything changes and nothing remains the same except the laws that can be discovered by self-study as regards mind, the truths of mind that can be found at the University of Self. These truths always remain the same, and that the changes that occur are experienced by this always present experiencing mind. This always present experiencing mind is what never changes, it's always there, and what changes are its opportunities for experiencing. So the student at the University of Self never needs to feel lost as regards meaning and purpose and direction, because it is always learning and improving its ability to learn about itself by observing its reactions, his or her reactions, the mind's reactions to what is going on in experience as a result of having that ability to observe and experience what one is experiencing, which is the second truth. I experience my experiences and am able to talk to myself about them and discuss them in regard to either being open-minded or closed-minded to ideas that form as answers. However, if closed-mindedness occurs, then the student has stepped aside from the University of Self, because the motto, if you like, at the University of Self is that curiosity is the cure for unknowing, and that meaning is to be found in knowing. Therefore, curiosity and open-mindedness is a cornerstone, in quotes, at the University of Self. So, at the University of Self, there needs to be a readiness, above all things, to face up to the self. A readiness to look at the self in all its aspects. At the University of Self, you learn about all its aspects. How can you learn about all its aspects unless you're ready to face them? The readiness to face the self, therefore, is another sine qua non of continuing at the University of Self. I want to conclude this introduction to the University of Self by referring to a section from the Pathwork lectures, which compares learning about the self with the skills of captaining a boat.